This week, hacking AOL style. DHS attempts to secure critical infrastructure, hacking for poison, ERP targeting, hacking 10,000 WordPress sites, prisoners steal things, ironically enough, wiping your car, and getting paid to hack your printer. Ed Sattar from QuickStart joins us for expert commentary today with some tips for breach prevention. So stay tuned for this episode of Hack Naked News. This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show that brings you the security news each week. And despite popular belief, we do wear pants. It's Hack Naked News.
The breach was huge news at the time.
Linux monitoring tool.
List of affected devices. You can check out the link in the show notes.
Ars Technica is reporting that hackers have cracked the Nintendo Switch this week.
Tracking people's locations and stuff like that.
You'll want to be rolling out updates if you're using Lenovo hardware. Today's determined attackers easily bypass even the most advanced network defenses. Trying to ramp up staff to detect their backdoors can cost thousands of dollars and take months, even years. With Active Countermeasures AI Hunter, we enable junior analysts to detect even the most advanced backdoors in a matter of hours. Sign up for a demo and purchase our product today by visiting activecountermeasures.com/HNN. Active Countermeasures. Make every analyst a hunter. Do you have a website, an external presence, employees, an office? Any of these things can be compromised and attacked. How are you defending your assets? Have you penetration tested your public assets? Start 2018 by taking a proactive approach to securing your vulnerable areas. Black Hills Information Security has been helping companies find their weaknesses since 2008. Email consulting at blackhillsinfosec.com and see how they can help you sleep better at night. Welcome to Hack Naked News, episode 183 for July 31st, 2018. I'm your host, Paul Asadorian, coming at you live from G-Unit Studios today in Rhode Island. Just a quick reminder to fill out our survey. It will be closing soon. It wasn't available before because I broke the website. I've been doing a lot of that lately. In any case, go to securityweekly.com/survey. Only takes 5 or 10 minutes to fill that out, and it helps us a lot. So please do that. So that's the only announcement for this segment. So I'm going to get right into it with the security news for this week. Chinese hackers are trying to attack state governments by mailing CDs, hence the title AOL-style hacking. The Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center has warned officials of China-based campaigns that mail CDs loaded with malware. State institutions have received China postmarked envelopes containing both disks with virus-laden Word documents as as well as nonsensical letters. While it's not clear what the exact intent was, it looks as if the hackers hope to make their campaign seem more plausible by sending something physical. And the report also says that largely it was unsuccessful. So try again, China. DHS forms a new cyber hub to protect critical infrastructure. The Department of Homeland Security announced on Tuesday the creation of a new center aimed at guarding the nation's banks, energy companies, and other industries from major cyber attacks that could cripple critical infrastructure. Likely response from recent reports of Russian hackers that infiltrated U.S. critical infrastructure systems. Typically, though, these knee-jerk reactions creating new groups within the government are not effective, short-lived, and often don't carry enough weight to make a difference. Not that I'm cynical or anything. A Swiss lab that analyzed the Salisbury nerve agent says it was targeted by Russian hackers. See, Chinese hackers, you need to pay attention to the Russian hackers. Well, maybe not, because they all got caught. But so the state-run Spies laboratory near Bern in Sweden, I believe, was targeted by hackers believed linked to the Russian government ahead of a conference of chemical and biological warfare experts in September. In the mass market Swiss newspaper, Blick reported the story. This was after Sergio Skirpel and his daughter Yulia were poisoned in Salisbury back in March. The Swiss laboratory confirmed the British finding that they had fallen victim to Soviet-developed military-grade nerve agent Novichok. So were they trying to get information or cover up the evidence? Not sure. I suppose we may never know, but it's, of course, always fun to speculate. Malicious cyber activity is targeting ERP applications, according to a U.S. CERT advisory issued recently. Digital Shadows Limited and Onapsis have released a report describing an increase in the exploitation of vulnerabilities in enterprise resource planning or ERP applications. ERP applications, of course, help organizations manage critical business processes such as product lifecycle management, customer relationship management, and supply chain management. An attacker can exploit these vulnerabilities to obtain access to sensitive information, something we've known for some time. Not sure if that's related to a specific campaign or just the normal plethora of vulnerabilities in ERP applications that often go unpatched. How a hack on 10,000 WordPress sites was used to launch an epic malvertising campaign. So try and follow this. Checkpoint is the company that did the research and claims the brain behind the campaign, who it dubbed Master134, redirected stolen traffic from over 10,000 hacked WordPress sites and sold it to AdSterra, a real-time bidding ad platform. They wrote that AdSterra then sold it via a white-labeled ad-serving tech from AdKernel and advert retailers ExoClick, EvoLeads, and Adventure Feeds. Wow, it's a mouthful. Which then went on to sell it to the highest bidding advertiser. Kind of an interesting chain of events. More details in the story. Of course, 10,000 WordPress sites is a small drop in the bucket to the millions of WordPress sites that are on the internet today. Jailhouse Tablets allowed inmates to steal thousands of dollars in credits. Officials at the Idaho Department of Correction said that inmates from different facilities across the state collected nearly $250,000 in credits after having hacked their tablets. Up to 364 inmates exploited a vulnerability in JPay tablets, which were given to prisoners for email, music, and games to improperly increase their account balances, officials said. The total amount stolen by all inmates totaled nearly $225,000. I mean, who didn't consider that prisoners would try to hack the tablets you gave them? In any case. Connected car apps are opening up privacy holes for used car owners. Matt Watts, a data strategist and director of technology at NetApp, discovered after buying a used car that a previous owner could access a range of personal information via the app that connects with the vehicle. Matt states many of the current generation of cars have a host of online connected features, apps that allow you to interact with the vehicle even when you're nowhere near it. He explained in a personal blog post last week. He says, mine has the ability for you to remotely control the climate systems, call breakdown services, upload GPS destination details, and much more. It also keeps a record of the information and stores it all in your online account. Basically, now getting rid of a car is just like getting rid of an old phone or a computer. It has to be wiped. HP offers up to a $10,000 reward for printer bugs. HP offered a way for researchers to disclose to their team for a long time now. So you've been able to report bugs to HP, according to their chief technologist of print security. However, she states that this is our first bug bounty program and the world's first print-specific bounty to be managed by an external third party. The company told ThreatPost was reporting on the story. It's looking for obscure defects that could be used against its customers. HP said it will specifically be focusing on potential malicious actions at the firmware level, which include cross-site request forgery, remote code execution, and cross-site scripting. I'm wondering how this will work as you, in some cases, must have physical access to the printer to test it, or at least it really helps. I mean, unless you're just analyzing the firmware, which can also be very difficult and require custom tooling to be developed. And who knows if that $10,000 bug bounty is going to be enough to incentivize attackers to basically write a whole bunch of custom code to analyze firmware. I believe that a public bug bounty is the wrong way to go in this case. Instead, they'd be better off with a private program that gives researchers access to hardware and software in a controlled environment. But hey, that's just my opinion. With that, we'll take a short break, come back with Ed Sattar. Stay tuned. Today's determined attackers easily bypass even the most advanced network defenses. Trying to ramp up staff to detect their backdoors can cost thousands of dollars and take months, even years. With Active Countermeasures AI Hunter, we enable junior analysts to detect even the most advanced backdoors in a matter of hours. Sign up for a demo and purchase our product today by visiting activecountermeasures.com/HNN. Active Countermeasures. Make every analyst a hunter. Welcome back, everyone. Quick announcement. We will be at Black Hat and DEF CON in the pool areas in the respective conferences. Come check us out. We'll be doing interviews, trivia, giving away free copies of the Cyber Hero Adventures comic book alongside Gary Berman. So make sure you come to the pool area in each of those conferences and come say hi to us. We'll also be in the DEF CON vendor area as well, selling t-shirts and other such gadgets and shot glasses and all that kinds of fun stuff. Mark's moving my camera now while I'm reading, making it really. It's okay. I'm old. I have trouble seeing now. So make sure to check out our webcast with Endgame, August 16th, 2018, on phishing prevention. Typically, you can go to securityweekly.com/endgame. However, I'm working on the website, so it may not work. But go there and see if it works. securityweekly.com/endgame. Ed Sattar is joining us today. He's the CEO of QuickStart. Ed, welcome to the program today.
Well, glad to have me. Glad to have me on your show.
Yes, it's wonderful to have you here today. Ed, you wanted to talk about things that we can do for breach prevention, but you set the stage by pointing out some key challenges that many of us have when we're trying to secure an organization or an environment. Those include mitigating advanced threats, insufficient privilege management, insecure APIs, data loss due to a breach, and lack of due diligence. Did you want to focus on any one of those areas before we go on to prevention and talk about some of the challenges?
Yeah, I think some of the challenges. Well, you mentioned some of the challenges that I talked about. Had we not had any of these challenges, your show would not exist, right? I mean, these are and these challenges are getting more advanced and more complex to deal with. So mitigating advanced threats. I mean, you look at our top 15 from Yahoo to Equifax to banks and so on and so forth. All of these are really major security threats, and these are challenges of CISOs all the way up to just information security officers up to CISOs. Inefficient identity, credential, and access management. I think a clear example would be Yahoo, which impacted 3 billion users, and vast majority of those was password involved and had hashed using the robust bcrypt algorithm, right? And then
it's interesting, Ed. Speaking of breaches, when I talk to penetration testers that do this for a living every day, the manipulation of credentials is tops of their list, and how they basically get into an organization, persist in an organization, move laterally to get at the sensitive data. Privilege management, I mean, that covers probably a large percentage of the techniques in use today by pen testers and attackers alike.
Yeah. So then if you go to another challenge that you had earlier mentioned is the insecure interfaces in application programming. Interface API example, like Equifax had an application vulnerability in one of their websites, which led to a data breach that exposed approximately 147 million consumers. So what is the kind of the solution for all of this stuff? The problem is that people within the organization, the hackers are way more advanced, right? The people that are doing these security breaches, very advanced, using best of the breed technology, the best of the breed tools. And what's happening is the people within the organization that are not as well trained, or they don't have the right tools, and they're not deploying the best of the breed training solutions or equipment and processes. So whenever you're less internally, when you're not on top of things, and you're not involving automation, or you're not keeping your people well trained, and so you're always going to be
Yeah, and
somewhat behind.
I want to stop you right there because you just made a fantastic point. And to back that up, in previous shows we've covered, if you think about how attackers operate, they operate in a very narrow focus oftentimes. In other words, one group might be doing all the open source intelligence gathering. The next group may be using that information to gain a foothold in their target. Then they sell that to another group that's going to do something with that. So the attackers, if you think about like their role every day, it's very narrowly focused. They can create a lot of tradecraft for a very specific purpose and profit from that. When we flip to the defender side, you mentioned automation. Like most of us defenders today, we've got a lot on our plate. Like we're trying to be experts in a lot of different things and be very well-rounded. We don't often have that narrow focus, which naturally puts us at a disadvantage. So just to back up your point with something we talked about recently.
You're right. You're right. So they're narrowly focused and uber specialized in what they do. And it's all about, so when you become uber specialized, hyper specialized in something that you do, you become you become the best at it. So now it becomes a race between people that are internal CISO teams, information security teams, to how can they, how can they make a quantum leap and get ahead of the curve in terms of all process, people, technology, tools, automation, and so on and so forth. So the solution could become, okay, well, I put them in like two different buckets. You have a preventive action plan, or you have a corrective action plan. So a preventive action plan could be very, very costly, right? Someone hacks into your system, you had a data breach, so on and so forth. Well, I mean, your corrective action could be very expensive. I mean, so you could have, if you're a publicly traded company, your stock value could go down. You get fines from attorney generals and so on and so forth. The confidence of the consumer or the people or your customers go down in you. So when you start,
also Ed, I always like to add into the cost of a breach the morale for the employees that work for that company, that they could leave, right? Your security people leave, your IT people, maybe other people leave, because morale for the whole company has gone down because you just suffered a huge breach and had to deal with all the fallout.
Absolutely, because then people feel like the leadership is not in command and control.
Right.
So and people don't want to be part of an organization that where they feel like they're not in command and control. And so then you have a preventive action. So what do you do from a preventive action perspective? And in my experience, I've seen there's like three things kind of you do within your preventive action. So one that I've typically seen are usually the root cause of most of your problems. You have your policies and procedures. So a lot of the companies don't have very specific policies and procedures, and then enforcing those policies and procedures and educating people on the processes and procedures. And then the other thing is training. They just don't invest enough time in training people on information security or tools or providing technical training within the information security space. And then the tools, equipment, software, hardware, and all those things. So policies and procedures, training, and tools. So my expertise is not in the policies and procedure side of the business. My expertise is not on the tool side of the business, but really on the training and driving behavior change through training is an area that I've spent last 18 years in, and dealing in how to make it personalized and customized training to mitigate these security threats. And that's the area.
Yeah, and I like how we just didn't tell people they need training. You preface that with policies and procedures. And what I always advise organizations or ask them, I'm like, you got to know what classifies sensitive data in your organization, and then maybe come up with some classifications as to what's extremely sensitive and what's not, and everything in between. You got to know where that data lives. You got to know who should have access to that data. And then you have to manage, monitor, and control that process. Your policies and procedures are your first step. And taking just those things I said is a project in and of itself, but very important to understand what you're protecting. And then once you have that, then you can go get the appropriate training and tools to help protect what you've already defined. And a lot of people miss that first step, Ed, right? And they jump right into training and tools, but they have no idea what they're protecting.
Absolutely. So policy and procedures really gives you a roadmap as to what are you going to do with respect to your process? What are you going to do? What is your objective? What are you going to do with respect to your goals? What are you going to do with respect to upgrading equipment and so on and so forth? And if this happens, what are you going to do? If that happens, what are you going to do? And and what are your escalation process going to be? What are some of the metrics that you're going to be looking after? Things like that, right? And then you taking those policies and procedures and then start auditing against it, and then you start automating against it. But unless you have that first step, you just can't advance forward. And people, you're right, most of the people take this thing very, very lightly. They usually don't put a lot of weight on policies and procedures. And then training becomes, in fact, I was reading a study that 43% of the organizations surveyed that so there's like AmericanSecurityToday.com reported that about 1,200 medium-sized businesses do nothing when they receive a cyber alert. So while 43% of the organizations surveyed are planning to train up existing staff, and 36% plan to grow their team, and which really makes it a huge skill set gap. See, and a major challenge. The other problem that a lot of the organizations are facing is there's a lowest unemployment. So if you have marketing, sales, app dev, operations, and you have information security as a department. So information security has the lowest unemployment rate in any of the departments within an organization. So finding those professionals is becoming very, very difficult. And there's a huge skill set gap already. So there's a skill set gap between your team member, your people, your information security professionals, and the hackers. There's a huge delta that you need to continue to close. And then how do you bridge that gap so they can come, so they can be well equipped to prevent from any of these security threats to happen? So you already have so the skill set gap continues to grow, and you have a shortage in people and being able to find. So what do? You gotta create a learning culture within your organization, and you gotta bridge that skill set gap. You personalize that training. You also customize it based on your company policies and procedures.
Well, sure. And so many organizations I speak with may have a particular security solution, but they're not using it as effectively as they could because they either haven't spent the time on it or haven't got proper training to really dig in and spend time and configure it to achieve a specific goal. And of course, that starts with defining your goals with your policies and procedures. But there are so many solutions that, we call it like shelfware, right? Like it sits on the shelf and no one's doing anything with it. And training is certainly an excellent option to get people up to speed and utilizing some of the things you may already have.
Well, yeah. So look at doctors, right? When the doctors go to med school, right? They're not just they spend 4 years in undergrad, and they spend another 4 years or so in med school. Then they have to pass their local state exam. Then they have to pass their then they have to do their MLEs, right? Where they go in and they start doing 3 years of residency. Then they have to pass their local state exam. So they go through all of that stuff because they're dealing with people to avoid malpractice, and it's very similar, right? I mean, our information security departments within an organization is also managing a lot of data of millions and millions of people. It's all digital identity, right? And so not training people and making sure that they don't go through proper training and skill them up is actually committing malpractice. It's got a digital malpractice, right? And we're seeing those examples every day. So that would be so our we just feel like we don't. I get the sense that sometimes that we just don't take training as seriously. I'll give you an example. Like almost every profession, right? So like plumbing, electricians, environmental health and safety people, even food and beverage, like a server or a food manager, or dentists or dental hygienists, they all have to take continuing education annual or biannual basis by various regulators. I used to deal with 427 regulators. That's how I know. So why they do that is because people don't commit malpractice, make sure they protect the consumer. And there is no currently regulator that regulates to say that you got to have X amount of education that you need to do. And a lot of it is really education related. Imagine I have a cell phone and, I walk in the restroom where I have my laptop and I'm dealing with my laptop and I leave my laptop just open and go and grab a drink at the airport. And guess what? Someone could have, or I can just leave it and lose it. And some people could have access to my system. And then from that system, they can go directly hack into the system. So all these things are behavioral changes. A lot of these things could be addressed just through behavioral changes and by implementing training that drives that behavior. And then equip them with the right knowledge.
And Ed, just so folks know, as we round out the interview today, they can visit QuickStart.com and explore the training options that you have that are security specific as well as not security specific, correct?
That is correct. So QuickStart.com is a IT technical training provider. We use artificial. So what we do is our whole objective is to convert training into a learning experience to meet the objectives of head of IT or head of DevOps. So if the goal is to mitigate advanced threats or data loss or insufficient due diligence, we convert training into a very personalized and customized learning experience to help IT leaders and executives meet those objectives, as well as people that are thinking about getting into information security space. They can also get a lot of certifications, and we prep them for various certifications, such as like CompTIA cybersecurity analysts or cybersecurity risk assessments and or cyber certified information system security professionals, so on and so forth. So we provide a lot of those types of training. And
fantastic.
Our whole objective is to personalize that, to convert training into a high impact personalized learning experience, ultimately impacting the goal of the company.
Ed Sattar, the CEO of QuickStart, thank you so much for appearing on the show today.
Thank you.
And with that,
thanks for having me.
Yes, wonderful to have you here today. Awesome show. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. See you next time.